Hi everybody. So we're back and we're going to be talking about Commedia dell'arte today, which was a portion of Renaissance theater, but it has a lot of repercussions going onward into future theater, including modern entertainment. Once we get through this unit, I think you're going to be really surprised at how much impact and how many carryovers you see in modern entertainment based on what you're going to learn today. So here we go. All right, so here's the boring stuff first. So Commedia dell'arte started in Italy in the Italian Renaissance from about the 1550s. Was about when it really flourished, and continuing on into the 1750s. But like I just said, it continues to have an impact. It influenced all sorts of theater from that point onward. Um, the Another term for the commedia dell'arte, which means just comedy and art, or art of the comedy. And another term is commedia erudite, which means learned comedy. Um, so it was based on, and this is very different than a lot of other Renaissance styles of theater at this time period in Europe. It was based on a troupe um, design. That's not unusual. But the fact that these troupes are touring troupes, this is considered common man's theater. This is low class, lowbrow theater. This is not your high class theater. That's what makes this quite a bit different. These troupes consisted of about 10 performers, 7 men, 3 women. Of course, these are just approximations. And what would happen is that these performers would specialize in stock characters. And we're going to talk about stock characters at great length here today. But they would have one specialty, and that specialty might be transferred down from one generation to another, and you would devote your whole life to this character type. So that's really an essential part of this art form. And it was a traveling art form. These people, these touring troupes, did not have specifically a home theater. They did tour. The other interesting thing about Commedia is that it was I don't want to say universal, but it was universally recognized. It was an art form that was familiar to audiences all over Europe, not even in just Italy, because it did branch out into France and to Germany and even to England. And they each had their different forms. But there were several, there were many, many companies, many troupes that all participated and performed this kind of art, and they were all over. So you're an audience member, you could be watching a show in Venice and then travel up to Paris and see the same characters or character types that you recognize, even though they were completely different troupes in completely different regions and cultures. So here you go. So Commedia is based off of the idea that there were no set texts. Everything, well, not everything, most of the entire performance was improvised. What a theater company did know, however, they went into a performance having established scenarios. So a touring troupe would have X number of scenarios, which was a storyline. They were, an outline of a plot. No dialogue was written in that part of the thing, but the characters, the actors knew how the story was going to go. So they improvised their dialogue and their text based around that. They did also have set monologues or soliloquies that they could just insert in whenever it was an appropriate moment. So they could bring in these artistic, poetic elements in the story. They also had lazzi. Lazzi are little bits of action, physical action. I'm going to show you a clip here in a moment. But those were all established. There was a lot of staged fighting in this kind of art. It's a very physical kind of comedy, and fighting that is not planned out ahead of time. I think we've talked about this in class, but fighting that isn't planned out ahead of time is dangerous. So we don't have that happening, but we do have these well choreographed bits that the actors could just go into in the middle of an improvised play. And then we have the stock characters, which I've already mentioned. And these stock characters, because actors are playing these roles and specializing in them throughout their life, they have these they have these characters really well understood. They knew how these characters thought because that was like almost an alter ego. So these stock characters were, again, I don't want to say the term universal, but it's pretty close. Whether you're seeing a show in Venice or Paris, you could see the same character and often with the same name in all these locations, and they had the same type of character. They were stock characters. So you didn't have to learn all about this character in order to understand the short play because it was an established archetype. So what we're going to do is look at a lot of those. I'm going to see if I can move my face here or take it away. I don't know if I can. So I can show you this video. We're going to see what we can do here. There we go. I hope I'm still recording. So I want to show you this little sample of a Lazzi. Okay, so you get the idea of what that Lazzi would have been like. So I don't know how our little picture and video got off sync last time, but that's okay. We'll keep going. So the rest of this this video is going to be outlining these different Commedia characters. So there are many variations of these. I am just going to hit on a couple. Just to give you a sense of the types of characters and how they felt. So we are starting here with innamorati, which is the plural of innamorato, which is a male, or innamorata, which is a female. So here we have our male and female lovers. These are young people. They are central often to the plot because they are trying to, fight against their parents' wishes to become lovers or married or whatever. They wear the latest fashion. They are high status characters. They are symbolized by frailty. So this is a very familiar archetype, hopefully, to you. They do not wear masks. Commedia, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but Commedia was a very mask-focused art form. All of the other characters that we're going to be looking at today all are identified by their masks. So these young lovers are not wearing masks. So one thing that I thought would be important is to look at not just these characters, but to see their modern day equivalent, because you are going to, once we learn all of this, you're going to start noticing in all the television and films that you're probably watching right now and stories, um, these archetypes still exist in modern entertainment. So here are some examples. So we have, I mean, yes, they're kind of traditional examples. We've got Aladdin. We've got Romeo and Juliet down here. I hate this particular movie, but I figured at least you guys would acknowledge it and understand what that's from. And here's from Crazy Rich Asians. So the thing here is that these um, storylines are all lovers facing off against odds, usually family or societal odds that are keeping them apart. And we are now they're trying to, overcome that. And that is what these young lovers in Commedia are doing. Now we have Capitano. Capitano is in the next mass category of Commedia characters. There are three older people that we're going to be looking at today. One is Capitano, and they, like I said, are the older characters. Capitano is an arrogant man. He acts much higher status than he is. You can see, I'm going to use my little, maybe we use a highlighter. You can see here is his mask. There's his mask there. I don't want to cover it up, but there you can see this is one common mask, but all of these other images, the character is wearing a mask. You can see that he's identified by this very rakish mustache. Here, he all is wearing very similar outfits in every one of these pictures. And the other thing that I want you to take note of, I'm going to make this in pen here, is to see this sword. Please take note, in each one of these pictures, he is carrying a sword. As a military type person, he carries a sword, but he's carrying a sword in a intensely impractical way by holding it up back in the back. This is called a rakish angle. Now, if you remember when we talked about raked stages, that word raked means it's on a slant. So he is holding that sword at a rakish angle. And if you think back to like old Hollywood times, there was this character archetype called a rake. And I can't think of any examples right now. If I can, I'll pop them in somehow on the video. But that rake was a very, self-important kind of character, usually more of a lover type, but that whole concept is very similar to the Capitano. So Capitano, again, arrogant, acts higher status than he is, and there you go. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try to pause this and then we'll watch the video, see if they link up better. Just kidding. We're having a hard time making this work, apparently. So I am struggling. There we go. Okay, so that is just a taste of Capitano. These little videos that I'm going to be showing you, this is a man who makes masks, and he's just kind of giving you a little sense of the way these characters moved, because as stock characters, they not only had, very familiar costumes and very familiar attitudes, but they had very familiar movement styles that were consistent from one actor to another. And we should look at some Capitanos in modern day entertainment. Let's try that. So here are some capitanos that are familiar from modern day entertainment. You have in the right-hand corner, you have Puss in Boots, and to me, Puss in Boots is the epitome of capitano. He not only has the exact almost outfit, but he's got that attitude, the arrogant, self-important kind of attitude. We also down at the bottom have this character from Futurama. I don't remember his name. I don't watch Futurama, but I know that the Futurama characters are, and other, in that whole Matt Groening brand, really closely follow um, the Commedia characters. So there you have him. And then up at the top again, you have Jane Lynch's character from Glee, that very demanding kind of self-important gym teacher from the high school. So again, there are variations, but I do think you can find these connections in a lot of familiar entertainment. So here we have Pantalone. Pantalone is the highest status of all the characters. He's a very common character in Commedia. He is old, he's miserly, he's lustful or lecherous. He is often the master of servants. That will become important later on. And in that little preview I showed you with the juggling, you may have noticed that was Pantalone, who was participating in that. His costume is really identifiable. We have this long, almost union suit kind of red outfit with a robe over top. He's got this beard. He's got a mustache sometimes. He's got this little, cap on top. It's a very recognizable character. I'm going to show you this little, again, little clip just to give you a taste of how he moved and whatnot. Okay, so again, that just gives you a taste of that character's movement and posture style. Even though he is the oldest character and he has this bent back sort of posture, his movements are traditionally very bird-like. It's a very identifiable characteristic of that person. And here are some modern pantalones. Nope, maybe. Here we go. You have Mr. Burns. He is like the quintessential Pantalone from modern times. We also have Scrooge McDuck, and you guys know this character better than I do. I'm not a SpongeBob watcher, but he is this, again, very miserly type of character. Um, I have all cartoons here, and there are certainly cartoon versions, but there is also human versions of these as well. Okay, and our final Commedia stock character is Dottore, who is another high status character, but he is this intellectual snob. He is fat, he is unpleasant. So you can see that a little bit in his caricatures. Um, you see his mask. He has these big bushy eyebrows. He's usually a pretty chubby looking guy. When I say dottore, of course, that means doctor, but it doesn't necessarily mean medical doctor. It means more so, an academic type. So here's a little clip. All right, so you get that sense. Again, I think he's speaking German. It doesn't matter whether you understand or not. You get the idea for his speech patterns. And here are some modern day dottores. So Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter, I feel, is a pretty clear example. He's got that arrogance, and he is a good example. Again, Futurama characters. I need to look these guys up, but he has that intellectual side, and he's right. We have Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. Again, that highly intellectual, arrogant type of character. All right. Okay, so this is actually like my second or third take of this slide. I've realized a couple first times I've been on mute. So here we go. You have my perfected version now. So we move along to the servant category of Commedia characters. We've had our lovers, we've had our masters, and now we're in our servants. One of the most notifiable and famous members of the servant class is Arlecchino. So he's low status, he's a servant, but he, as far as servants go, he is very witty and crafty and acrobatic. He's very flexible. He is very much into this physical comedy. And you can see that reflected in all of these little captures here. We've got the character taking very interesting, unique postures and poses. Likewise, there is the identifiable diamond shape design to Arlecchino's costume. That is a very specific part of it. We also have this, I don't think you can see here. Let me put on, you can see here this prop, and he's carrying it also in the picture below. Um, so that actually is called a slapstick. That is a prop that was used. And you're familiar with this prop. It's simply a piece of wood with another piece of wood hinged to it so that when you whip it, it makes a cracking sound. It's very much like those little hand clappers that you got when you played with when you were kids. So that's called a slapstick because this comedy was very physical, and that's actually how we get the term slapstick comedy, which is comedy that's very full of physical pratfalls and faked violence. The Three Stooges, that's a perfect example of slapstick comedy. Okay, so I have a little example I'm going to show you. It is in Italian, so you won't be able to understand specifically what he's saying, but you will be able to get a good sense of the humor and the character of Arlecchino. I forgot to take it off mute again. So the key here is that even if you don't speak Latin, which I don't, sorry, Italian, which I don't, um, I believe he has written a letter and he's trying to find a way to seal the letter, and so he uses gum or some other similar product to seal the letter. He puts a little bit in his mouth, he swallows it, he puts another little bit of in his mouth, he swallows it. So he puts the whole thing to try to bring it all back up, and then he seals it. And of course, he sits on it to stamp it down. So that's the Arlecchino character. Now to move on to some modern day equivalents. Um, Here we go. So I would be remiss. I'm going to start at the bottom here. I would be totally remiss without mentioning the name Arlecchino translates in what we use in English to Harlequin. And yes, the character from Batman, Harley Quinn, is a direct descendant and ripoff of that. You even see the diamond shapes in her costume. Now, this is a modern, a newer version of Harley Quinn, I guess. And they're moving away from the diamond shape, which I don't think they understand where that comes from. So I don't know. All that being said, I don't know that Harley Quinn is a quintessential, to use that term. I don't know that she's a quintessential Harlequin or Arlecchino. I don't think she's the perfect example of it, but that is exactly the inspiration she's drawn from. Some other common Arlecchinos that we have in modern culture, we have Bart Simpson, Charlie Chaplin, um, we have Jim Carrey in The Mask, and Lucille Ball in I Love Lucy. We often see the Arlecchino in a partnership with a sidekick, and you'll see that too for sure as we move on to our next character, which is Zani. So Zani is he is a lowest status character. Now, it's kind of confusing because Zani can also refer to that whole subcategory of all servants. So technically, Arlecchino is a type of Zani, but there is, if we're just calling Zani a character type, he is the lowest form or the lowest status of this character. He is, whereas Arlecchino is very crafty and witty, Zani is very stupid and not very intellectual. So we see, this heavy brow. There's in this upper right-hand corner mask, or in the lower left-hand corner, we see this very, famous mask shape. By the way, all these masks, if they're seeming familiar to you, and you are familiar with like the Carnival masks or Mardi Gras masks, they are all coming directly from Commedia dell'arte. So that's where you might see that familiarity. And then we have the two characters besides them in the baggy clothing, and one of them's playing guitar, and that's all pretty standard. So I have a clip. I'm afraid this clip may not be the right one. Hold on. Yeah, this is not the right one. So we are going to come back to this slide really quickly, or I'll put you on to the next slide. So here we have, hopefully, this video showing Zani. The quality of the video is rather poor, and I apologize for that, but you'll get the sense. Okay, so I hopefully that video worked. If not, I'm going to be re-recording it. So here are some modern day Zanies. We have Harpo Marx up first on the left hand side. Harpo Marx was one of the Marx brothers. Groucho Marx is of course the most famous. But Harpo was, another character. And so kind of Harpo is a Zani to Groucho, who was more of an Arlecchino. We have Milhouse from Simpsons. So this is kind of Bart Simpson's sidekick. We have Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. Now, Brain is not an Arlecchino, so we don't have that, Arlecchino Zani partnership, but we do have Pinky, who is definitely a Zani, and we have Beaker from the Muppets. Um, so, uh, so we have these very kind of foolish, silly, not so bright characters that play a supporting comedic role. A couple of, I think that it's good to look at that sort of teamwork, the partnership that Arlecchino and Zani have here. I had mentioned Lucille Ball as an Arlecchino, so you might look at Lucy and Ethel as that Arlecchino-Zani partnership. We have the Warner Brothers and the Warner sister from Animaniacs. Now that's a threesome here, but you still get that sort of straight guy, fall guy, the person who's setting up the jokes and the person who's making a fool of him. You have like Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble in this category. I mean, you've got all kinds of that traditional, the two kind of goofy guys. One's more of your straight-laced, serious one, and the other's the lovable idiot. So there you have the Arlecchino and Zani connection. And that's it for this video. So hope you understand. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.